Today's guest is Suzanne Culberg, who is an author and a coach who helps overgivers and people pleasers learn to set boundaries and say no without feeling mean. Suzanne is known for her straight talking and her wacky t-shirts. She lives in Sydney, Australia with her husband and two awesome children. So Suzanne, thank you very much for being on. How are you doing today?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. And thank you for joining us in your early Saturday morning, recording this on a Friday here in my local time. So always appreciative when people from your side of the world say yes to joining me nice and early.
The
Um,
future's looking good.
yeah, I was always say you guys live in the future, right? So thank you for letting us know that it's coming and we're good. So I appreciate that as well. But yeah, in terms of that, why don't you just contextualize the conversation then and let us know, how you got to doing what you're doing and what you're all about.
Oh, how I got to doing what I'm doing is a very long story, short. Basically, I used to weigh twice what I do now, and I was a total people pleaser, martyr, victim, doormat who said yes to everything that involved everybody else and no to myself. And I was very resentful. Wasn't conscious of the resentment, just thought, like this is just how you have to be. And then eventually, when I realized that I started to set boundaries and say no to others and more yes to myself, and had more time to do the things I actually wanted to do. So make time to exercise, make time to cook rather than having the fresh veggies in the fridge wilting while I get cheap and cheerful because it's just quicker and more convenient. Then yeah, I just started to experience life in a whole different way. And that led me into coaching, and I wrote a book about my weight journey, my first book. My second book's coming about my entrepreneur journey. And yeah, now I help others to do the same, to set boundaries, to say no, to put themselves first, because self first isn't selfish. And what leads me to the conversation today is, yeah, I'm in launch for my program currently. And yeah, the mind drama that goes on for the entrepreneurs when we're launching a program.
Beautiful. Well, I mean, perfectly summarized. I was like, I don't know if you prepared this ahead of time, but I'm like, that was very well done. So kudos to you. Yeah, and I also just wanted to add to that. It's firstly, congratulations on your transformation, right? Like it's not a small one to make. And I don't know if you know my history, but I owned a brick and mortar weight loss center for 10 years, and people pleasing and putting yourself first was like literally one of the first things that always came up with all the clients that I work with. So I understand, the arc you would have had to take to get to where you're at, and more importantly, stay where you're at. So I just want to acknowledge you for that because I know it's not a small thing. Two, so diving into, since you brought it up already, the launch bit. Okay. So tell me more about that. Like what's going on for you internally? What are the things that you're struggling with there? Kind of give me the top problems you're facing right now.
Okay, so I launched my program 4 times a year. It goes for 10 weeks, and it runs for 10 weeks because that's how long the school terms are. So, boundaries, I lead by example. I work in the school time and I have the school holidays off, except for I'm launching in them. So they're off from work, but they're not off from the mind stuff of like, how many people do I have signed up? How many people are, interested in the program? And so I tend to be an early adopter. I see something, I'm like, yeah, let's do this thing. And then I realize not everybody, actually, it's probably a minority of people who are also like that. So when I initially say, here's the dates for the next round, you jump on in, people tend to, and then you have that lull, and then the last minute people come in. So the mind drama, or the place I'm in right now, is kind of like in that space because there's 9 days to go till we start. So it's kind of, and I'm running a free training next week for like a little taster kind of thing. And so it's promoting that. And the thoughts are like, everyone's sick of hearing about it, or like they don't want me to send another email, or if they wanted to do it, they would have done it already, which, logically, isn't true. Because it was funny, I was just chatting to a fellow entrepreneur friend before we hit record, and I know she's running a masterclass next week as well. And it was funny, I follow her stuff. I know her well. I can't remember what day it was or what topic she was. So I was like, people get busy in our lives. So I understand the importance of being front of mind and reminding people and, selling your stuff. But then the people pleaser part of me, you teach what you most need to learn so you can learn it, is like, oh, you don't want to be a bother to people or whatever. So that's where it goes.
Got it. So there's, I think, a lot of layers here. And the first one that I would just start with is, given that you're a coach yourself, how would you coach yourself in this instance?
Oh, yeah. I coach myself on this on the daily. And I think, that's what makes coaches powerful, because it's not someone who has got it all together telling you what to do. It's like a separation. It's like being on the path with the clients as well. So like, I just remind myself on the daily when I do like my thought work or my thought downloads, the people are still coming. There's people who aren't even in my orbit yet. Like there could be somebody who comes across something of mine. It's like, oh, this is amazing, I'm in. So like there's 8 billion people in the world, not just the people who are on my mailing list or the people I've already come across. Reminding people who are busy that, this is coming. Because how many times have we been like, oh yeah, I mean to sign up for that, and then go about our merry way. And then the reminder comes, I was like, oh yeah, here's that thing again. So it's not making it mean anything about me as a person. And just continuing to show up. It's similar growing a business, I think, to releasing weight, is in taking that action day in, day out, even when you aren't seeing the results immediately or fast enough on your timeline. So just reminding myself to keep chipping away at it each day.
So beautifully explained, beautifully articulated. I guess a follow-up question then would be, okay, so what's stopping you from doing that?
Well, I am doing that, but I'm still frustrated that it's not happening fast enough. So it's kind of like there's adult coach Suze who's like, yes, I get it. And there's petulant teenager Suze who's like, I don't want to. Or I don't care. It's like, when you ask the kids to do the chores and they're just like folding their arms. So I still do it, but sometimes I do it with the energy of like, what's the point kind of thing. So yeah, that's always the fun stuff. But I must admit, I'm proud of myself for not folding. Like sometimes it's like, oh, I've sent enough emails and I'll just be out, still in the game, taking it through the finishing line.
Got it. So in that instance, okay, so normal up and down of the business model that you've chosen, you are doing what you can to manage, your own thought drama around this. You're expecting and are aware of the teenager part of you to, want to rebel and do what it does. So what's really the problem here?
Oh, I'm impatient.
Okay. So fair. I mean, that could be an unwanted state, but what's the actual problem?
Well, actually, if I step back from it, there isn't a problem. It's kind of like I'm doing the things that I said I'd do. The brain mind drama's coming up. I'm handling that. So that reminds me of the Matrix. Like, what if there is no spoon? What if there is no problem?
So
yeah.
What if there is no problem?
I don't know. It's just, it's like this is part of the launching cycle that I go through. I just would like it to be less feeling like a roller coaster, I suppose.
Okay. So I'd like a different experience with launching.
Yes.
Okay. So kind of goes back to the exact same thing, right? Like, all of the, like, from the thought work, what you need to do. You're aware of your emotions. You're aware of your inner child. You're aware of, what needs to shift in order to do it. So is this a question of, I know what to do, but I'm not doing it? Is this a question of I'm making a problem where there is no problem? Or is it a question of something else?
It's probably I'm making a problem when there is no problem. Because I would have said in the past, like in previous rounds, because I launch this 4 times a year, totally would have been, I know what to do, but I just don't do it. Like I avoid doing my journaling or my thought work or whatever. But this time I have been. So I've been really, that's something I pat myself on the back for. But it's just kind of like, oh, this sucks. Whereas like zoning out and not doing it in the moment feels better, because you don't have to sit with the, looking at the numbers or sit with the where your mind's going. It's easier to numb out or avoid that. So yeah, it's more a case of like, this is just part of the process. That yeah, I don't want to be part, I don't want to be here.
Okay. So I guess in that case, the question is, what part of reality are you fighting?
They're like 50-50. Like, I look at life's 50-50. So 50% of the time it's going to be awesome and 50% of the time not so much. Me wanting a reality where everything's rainbows and unicorns all the time.
Okay. So again, great awareness. So what are you not willing to let go of?
That dream.
Okay. And how's that working for you?
Yeah, not so well.
Okay. So going back to that again, why is it so hard to let that go?
I guess the conditioning comes to mind, kind of like, and what's sold, like, is this kind of rainbows and unicorns thing. And it's kind of like, yeah, that'd be so nice. But it doesn't feel real. So yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know, I just don't like to sit with crappy feelings.
Okay. So I'm resisting that 50% of the time something's going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm resisting the fact that for that 50%, these things are going to come up pretty uncontrollably. And I don't want them to be here. So what's coming up for
Yeah.
you when I reflect that back?
Well, it's kind of like the resisting is a great thing, because it's like, yeah, it reminds me, like, if there's a chore or something I don't want to do and I spend all this time resisting, and if I just do it, then it's not so bad. So it's kind of like resisting feeling crappy versus allowing it to be. I think that's the thing. It's like, oh yeah, I don't feel great today. Noted.
Okay. So resisting the 50%, that's bad. Okay.
Yes.
So that again makes sense. So why are you unwilling to let go
Sorry, can you
of
say
that?
that again?
Like, why are you unwilling to let go of that
Ooh.
resistance?
As I say, I don't know. And you'd be like, what if you did know? Coaching coaches is always so much fun. Um,
So, okay, put a different way, and I'll not use that question because you're already going there. What are you gaining by indulging in this?
oh, self-righteousness. Like, I'm allowed.
Mm. Okay, tell me more about that.
It's just that, like, self-righteous feeling, like I'm allowed to be frustrated that things aren't happening fast enough. I'm allowed to, yeah, it's just kind of, I'm gaining self-righteousness. I'm gaining, like, not having to feel failures, not is too strong of a term, but like feeling disappointed. Like, I can avoid feeling disappointed. Hmm.
Okay. Anything else?
No, not that I can consciously get. No.
Okay. So there's self-righteousness is what I'm gaining,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to avoid feeling disappointed.
Yes.
Okay. In your mind, are those two the same thing or are they different?
They're related, but they're different. Like, self-righteousness to me almost feels like an excuse or like, you show the evidence. Like, it reminds me, it's like a school kind of energy. Like, yeah, I did my homework. Here it is. See, even though part of you is thinking like you're doing it, thinking this will never work or this sucks or where am I going to use this in my life? So self-righteousness feels like it's very indulgent kind of, I did it and it didn't work. See, whereas disappointment just feels like it feels really heavy. And like being a kid and I asked for something and my parents always saying no.
Okay. So great awareness on what those things mean to you generally.
Mm-hmm.
How you got to here was you dove into those by basically saying, well, this is all about resisting feeling bad.
Mm-hmm.
So how is resisting feeling bad like, hey, look, I did this homework, but I don't really care about it?
I guess if you have a goal or something that you want to do and part of you doesn't know if it's like feasible, so you kind of take some steps towards it and go, see, I tried. That's the kind of the self-righteous thing. But the deeper part of it is like, is this even possible? Like, that feels bad to be like, that feels disappointing.
Okay. So now as the onions get peeled, this is much less about the thought errors that you have going through the norms of the business model that you've chosen. Now you're getting into very identity rooted doubt pieces. Can I even do
Yes.
this? Is it even possible? Am I allowed to even dream big enough? Like that's what you're starting to skirt around.
Yes.
Okay. So, given that, if you zoom out, why is that a problem?
Well, I suppose it's a problem if you put a lot of effort into something and it's not feasible. It feels like a waste.
So, if I put a lot of effort into something that isn't feasible, then it's a waste. Agreed. And what I would reflect back as a challenge is the way you worded that, it presupposes the waste from the beginning, meaning I'm putting my effort into something I know isn't going to work. So obviously that's a waste.
Mm.
But what's in front of you right now is you're creating and birthing a business. So it can only work to the extent that you believe that it can work. So going back again, these deeper unworthiness parts of you that are coming up, how are these actually a problem for you?
But how are they a problem for me? In what context?
In the context of everything you're trying to achieve.
Well, if I don't believe that I can create it, I won't.
Okay. So keeping that zoomed out perspective and now taking that same lens to your launches, to your business goals, to all of the things, how do those connect?
It connects, I suppose, in that I kind of want evidence that it's going to work before I played full out. And then there isn't going to be evidence of that because, like, you believe it and then you build it. Like, I'm thinking, I've got young kids I was never concerned they wouldn't be able to walk. Like, one took considerably longer than the other, but we got there in the end. And the same is now they're a bit older. One of them's learning to read still, and it's a lot of effort. But I'm not like he's not going to be able to read ever. Whereas I don't hold that vision for myself. I'm just like, oh yeah, we'll give it a bash and see what happens. But it's not like it's going to come about. It might not be on my timeline, but it's going to get there.
Okay. So great awareness and great connection, which at this point that's a pattern, right? Like you're extremely good at witnessing yourself. From the outside looking in, where I see a gap is you're extremely good at doing that in isolation and then not taking the extra step to connect it to your business. So if you rewind, is this even possible? Okay, well, now I don't want to feel disappointed. If I go beyond that, right, there's a self-righteousness aspect of if I did it and it didn't work, well, then whatever, I tried. Like I handed in the assignment I don't care about. So the sting is less if I don't care about it. Couple that to how do you now act in your business to create all of these results?
The results that I currently have, or the results that I
Correct.
desire?
Well, the results you're currently getting, because the results that you desire, you don't even think are possible.
Well, I would say I do the actions, but I'm kind of preparing myself to be disappointed. So I'm not that, like, I'm like microdosing with disappointment rather than feeling it at the end.
So yeah, a microdosing disappointment, so the sting is not as big. So I want you to go even beyond that. I'm microdosing smaller actions that I find self-righteous so that I can do them half-assed and then point to them and be like, see, look, just like this assignment that I really care about, this is not going to work. So therefore, reinforcement of the part you don't want to look at, which is I don't even feel worthy and or believe I can make the ultimate thing come true.
Yes.
So what lands for you there?
The kind of half-assing assignment type energy, so I can say, see, yeah, I did the thing. Yeah, that's what lands.
Okay. So now if you're like, if we rewind this back and I'm just reflecting back, like my notes, right? So yeah, I'm fighting reality, right? So I'm resisting the bad feelings. I have this half-assed self-righteous pattern of the actions that I take. I'm hedging all of my bets to minimize disappointment. So I'm not really creating what I want. I'm actually minimizing disappointment. And at the root of it all, there's a sense of unworthiness and undeserving that I can actually create what I want. And then stemming from that as number 5, there's very little, or I shouldn't say very little, there's not enough self-belief to get you over the hump to create whatever the desired outcome actually is. So what lands for you there?
Yeah, there's not enough self-belief there, because if I believed it, I wouldn't be so attached to the timeline, or I wouldn't feel in a rush. I feel like I haven't said it, but I feel kind of in a hurry. And it's funny, like with weight loss, because that's an experience I've had before that I finally nailed. It was when I let go of the, like, I need to do it by Christmas or whatever. It's just like, this is going to happen. That it did happen. And on the other side of it, it didn't matter how long it took. whereas I feel some urgency sense with business that I hadn't really connected to until this conversation.
So great. And is it really speed that you're after, or is the focus on speed just another way to reinforce the 5 head trash things we just spoke about?
Oh, yes, probably.
Yeah, right. Because to me, that sounded like the assignment bit. Well, I want this launch to do X numbers by the next 9 days. Oh, it didn't happen. See, like I'm doing all the right things, but clearly there's something, like it's that energy that you get from it.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So do you see, even in the space of like allowing yourself to see how all these patterns are bleeding into your business, how warped these lenses are, despite how good you are at actually being self-aware?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. So to bring it back to what I was saying before with regards to the gap, how are all of these head trash problems actually problem in your business?
That I focus more on the surface actions rather than the underlying beliefs.
Okay, so I focus more on the surface actions than the beliefs.
Mm.
Okay, so that is a consequence of your pattern as far as how you relate to yourself. That's not really a business problem.
Oh, it's, I guess I don't really have a business problem in that way then. Like, I don't know, because it's ticking along. Maybe I'm impatient.
Okay, so may or may not be true, and I'm just going to run with that thread and let's see where it leads. So if I don't have a business problem, and we started this whole conversation with, well, I don't really have a problem, kind of aware of it, maybe it's just not that bad, I'm not facing reality, so I've got no problems. Yet when I unpack it, I have these like 4, 5 major head trash elements that are not just distorting my ability to see reality, they're distorting my ability to face it. They're distorting my ability to act in the highest alignment and distorting my ability to even picture and envision the business that I want to have. So, what a perfect soup of self sabotage to never really move forward. So, and I know I'm throwing things your way in quite an intense way. So I just want to acknowledge that like I'm doing it out of like love and wake up, not as like, look at where you're wrong, look at where you're wrong. Um, and in that, what's landing for you?
The like building on the distortion. So it's kind of like not looking at the deep rooted problems.
Okay. So if you were to switch gears a little bit now and imagine you lost the ability to engage in all of these limiting patterns, who or what would you be?
Free. It's the first thought that comes to mind.
Okay. And free of what?
Some expectations. Um, yeah, just feeling like I could just do the thing without spinning.
Okay. So are you okay if we dive deeper into like exploring the possibility
Yeah, sure.
more? Okay. So let's just even look at them one by one, right? If you lost the ability to fight with reality and accepted fully the 50-50 nature of negative and positive feelings, what's underneath? Who or what would you be then?
I'd be present, I'd be accepting, yeah, just navigating what is directly here, not digging up stuff that's happened before or thinking about the future. Just be present.
Okay. And how would your relationship to negative feelings change?
I wouldn't tie it to my worth, or it'd just be like, it's in this moment, that's how I feel, but it wouldn't feel tethered.
Okay. So going back to the free aspect of it. Okay. Perfect. So if you look at the self-righteousness aspect, if you lost the ability to have that self-righteous, like, look, I did everything and still not working, who or what would you be then?
I think I'd be more like curious rather than defensive. So it's kind of like, I did this, I was expecting this, and this happened. Isn't that interesting? Rather than like, I did this and it didn't work.
Okay. So from a curious space, how do you think you deal with the ups and downs of your business?
Like more like a detective, or like, like I'm looking for clues rather than a school teacher giving a grade. So I'd just be like, oh, okay, I last time I did this, this happened. So I was expecting this again, and now I have this. Isn't that interesting? What needs to tweak, rather than feeling like I have to throw the whole thing out or do something else.
So in many ways, separating the drama from the data.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
Yeah. Right. So you could look at, okay, I got these numbers when I did this launch. What changed? Here's my hypothesis. Now I could modify X, Y, Z. Right. It could just be the objective problem without the baggage you associate and the drama you associate with it.
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful. So if we look at now the sentiment of I'm optimizing to never be disappointed, if you lost the ability to engage in that inner limit, who or what would you be?
The very first thought that comes up is like unafraid. It's kind of like, oh, well, that sucked. Now what?
So much more resilient.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything else?
Curious again, like
Yeah.
rather than resigned.
Beautiful. Anything else?
No.
Okay. And if you lost the ability to feel unworthy and deserving of your ideal business vision, who or what would you be?
Can't quite find the term. It's something along the lines of like driven and unapologetic. So it'd be like, there's 8 billion people in this world. I'd be driven to find the ones who get it rather than feeling like I have to explain it to the ones who don't.
Okay. So shedding the need to prove that you are good enough to do what you do.
Mm.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And then diving into the last one. So if you lost the ability to not believe that you can create the next level of your business, who or what would you be?
Focused. Would be focused. And I just wouldn't have as much like that mind drama stuff. Be more focused on the data. I liked that rather than the drama, because there's no drama about, is this going to work? Should it work? Should I do this instead or whatever? Like if I believed, hey, this is the thing, it would be more the data of let's make it happen rather than the drama of is it going to happen?
Mm-hmm. So if you can connect this piece back to how you described your attitude to your kids, right? Like one took longer than the other to walk, but I never doubted that they're going to walk. How would you show up if you had that same attitude in your business?
The showing up part, like the action part, never has seemed from my point of view to be a problem. Like I still take the actions, but I was taking the actions before from the point of view of like, this isn't going to work anyway. See that, you know, whereas it'd be like, this is going to work, but this part needs tweaking or this part needs adjusting. Like it would be more, yeah, like scientist rather than petulant teenager. So like just kind of experimenting.
So what I'm hearing is like either taking full out action or not half-assed action. So which one resonates more with you?
Pull out action.
Full out action. Okay. And I would assume fully aligned with the biggest vision.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you'd also give yourself permission to like envision the biggest business possible?
I don't know. I still feel a little bit squidgy around that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
let's dive into that. What do you feel off about that?
The biggest vision possible feels like a team and expansion and stuff. And then part of me is like, ugh, I don't want to train a team. Like, so it's like the biggest vision possible is like, you know, a much bigger organization than potentially I actually desire. Like, for example, my husband's an engineer. He likes to be an engineer and get his hands dirty and crawl around inside the machine and do that sort of stuff. He doesn't want to be a manager. And he's offered a number of promotions, which he's turned down, which surprises so many people because the career path is normally you do it and then you do this and you do this. So if I think the biggest vision possible for my business, it takes me away from what I actually like to do, which is the coaching and that closer relationship. I don't want to like necessarily have a team of coaches underneath me or be that far removed. So it's kind of like the biggest vision possible versus what I actually feel called to do.
Beautiful. So great clarity. And if it resonates with you more to think about your biggest desire or your most authentic or aligned desire.
Yeah, no, that feels
better.
better because yeah, it's like the biggest vision that I could create is not actually the one that feels like a desire to me. It feels, you know, don't want it to be this big. I want to just, you know, be this big, but not from an unafraid or nervous thing. It's just like, this is the role that I want to fulfill that feels fulfilling to me.
100%, right? And by all means, you get to have the business that you want to have to live the life that you want. This was more about just me prompting you to consider, if I don't have the self-belief to get to the next level of my business, it doesn't matter what the clarity is. Like whether you want a 10-person, 50-person team, or you want to be just yourself an assistant, cool. Like if that's the part that makes you happy, but the self-belief isn't there, then it's kind of irrelevant what the actual vision is. It was just more about getting you into that space to explore who or what would I be without these limits, right? So if I
Yeah,
look at
no,
the
that makes
list
sense.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to reflect back to you, right? The list of who you would be without the limits, right? So when I asked you generally, you were just like, well, I'd probably just be freer. And then, right, only through prompting, it's like, well, I'd actually be a lot more present and accepting of my realities and the ups and downs of them. I would allow myself to navigate what's here instead of actually resist it, right? I wouldn't associate feeling bad to my actual worthiness, right? I would show up in a curious and not a defensive way with regards to everything that's happening in the normal ebbs and flows of my business, right? I'd show up as the detective to solve the problems in front of me, right? So separating the drama from the data, right? I'd be driven, I'd be unapologetic, so full ownership of whatever the desire of a business actually is, not needing to prove anything, focused and taking full on action.
Hmm.
Okay. What are you hearing when I reflect that back?
Well, it's going to be a bit of a process, but I can get there.
Okay. And what would you create from that space?
I'll create something that feels good to me rather than something that I think looks good on paper.
Okay. Beautiful.
Mm.
So are you allowing yourself to really pour into yourself the possibility of what this could be? Or does it still feel like, I don't like that there's a closed offness that I'm sensing with you here in this space? So I'm just curious, like, does it feel uncomfortable to actually pour into yourself and
Yeah, a little
explore?
bit.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think that's also another thing that, like, I'm actually uncomfortable with how big I could be if I let go of all of these patterns?
Mm. Yes.
Okay. Right. Because, and the reason that I'm prompting you for that, and again, kudos to you for the acknowledgement and allowing yourself to go there, because it's going to be very hard to create out of inspiration and really tap into your desire when somatically it feels like I'm wearing like a, like a metal sweater when I put on all these good qualities. Meanwhile, like, if I read that list of what we just uncovered, I'm like what a beautiful way to show up, right? So again, this is not a judgment of like, look, you're not being here where you're saying you're going to be. It's just more of a mirror to be like, look at a part of you knows how big and expansive and fulfilled you can be showing up in this space. Now it's just juxtaposed with the part that's really scared to go there. You
Mm.
could even call this a fear of success in some way. Okay. So what comes up for you when I reflect that back?
Yeah, I liked the metal like thing that really resonated. It's like, yeah, like it feels really uncomfortable. But you could take that off and put that on and it feels less safe.
Yeah, it's not safe to be in my fullest, fulfilled, biggest self.
Mm.
Okay. So I know we covered a lot of grounds, having started from there's no problems here at all. Um, so yeah. Um, yeah, I just wanted to just be conscious of time. I know we can't solve all of these here today by any means, but as far as mapping out how your head trash and emotional blocks create friction in your business and create problems in your business, does this feel complete for you, or is there still something left outstanding?
Yes. No, that feels really good. Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome, and thank you for allowing yourself to show up, because as coaches, I know it's a lot funner to sit on this end than on the receiving end. So I just want to acknowledge you for that as well. So yeah, if you can then just summarize in your own words, what did you come into here thinking was the issue, and what did you unpack and uncover through this process?
Okay, so I came in here thinking the issue was that as I say, how do I say the issue? I didn't want to be convincing, but I didn't want to like bother people. So it's like, if they were going to sign up, they would have already. So the issue was the mind drama I have around the quiet lull period in the launch. As I like, is there's no problem because it's just part of it. Like, it will pick up again. And then what am I leaving here with? It's kind of like that underlying self-worth / bigger picture thing, like feeling uncomfortable with stepping beyond what I can vision now and allow myself to create that bigger picture.
Beautiful. So yeah, I could not have said it better myself. I think that as an umbrella encapsulates everything that we did. And yeah, I agree with you. The root of all of I guess we have 7 now, hit trash elements is the unworthiness, kind of like the big domino in all of this. So again, I acknowledge you for allowing yourself to go there in this capacity. And if you want to just close us off and let everybody know where to find you and who's the best person to find you, floor is yours for that.
Oh, thank you. So my website is suzanneculberg.com. It's the best place to find me. And I work with people pleasers and overgivers and who overconsume in some way. Because I think, many of us are overweight because we overgive. And that overconsuming could be food, but also could be, Netflix, overworking, like doing something else as a way of, avoiding the difficult conversations, setting boundaries, and saying no to others. And that's the work that I do with people, helping them say no to others so they can say yes to themselves.
Beautiful. Love it. And such important work you do. So Suzanne, thank you very much for being here and allowing us to witness your process. And for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.